All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Building with Brevin, episode number 26. And we are, once again, as always, excited to be back. We've got myself and Brian on this episode. And we've got another topic that I think is going to hit with a lot of you listeners. So we're excited to talk about it. But basically, we're going to be talking about does it make sense to DIY your own home? Can you build your own home and be the GC on it, so to speak? So we're going to go through some things that people should be aware of. We're also not going to turn away the fact that it does make sense for some people, and it also really does not make sense for other people. So we just want to kind of hit both sides of that and explain if it's even doable. But yeah, Brian, good to be back with you. How's everything going?
Absolutely. It's good. We always talk about coming up with new topics, and this one's going to be fun for me because I think you and I, coming from obviously the same family, we grew up in a home with a father that was a do-it-yourselfer, and I think that carries over to you and I today in our own lives to a certain extent, and so I respect and appreciate the DIYers, but I also recognize when the DIY is too much, even for myself. Right, there's a limit of things that I say, hey, this is too much for me to take on, or I don't have enough knowledge on this, or am not willing to take the time to invest to go figure this out. No matter what it is, it doesn't have to be around home building. It could be anything around the house or automotive related or mechanical related. So yeah, Stephen, I think this will be a good one to hope direct people in terms of should I build my own house or not, and help give some clarity or direction to those that might be on the fence.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's one of those things that it's tempting because people see the dollars in it that, oh man, I could save quite a bit of money. But they don't see all the other stuff that comes with it and the inherent risks and all the other stuff that we're going to talk about today. So we'll open it with that just to say that it is pretty appealing and it's tempting to think that way, that, hey, maybe I could DIY this myself. But as we'll talk about, it only makes sense probably for a small proportion or percentage of the population out there that wants to build a custom home. So, yeah, I think without further ado, let's just jump kind of right into it. And let's start with the ones that actually probably shouldn't build their own custom home. And start there and just talk through why they shouldn't. And then we'll end it off with why, or who can or who should, and why it makes sense. So starting with the ones that shouldn't, Brian, tell us a little bit more about what that person looks like and why they should not, or why it doesn't make sense for them to build their own custom home.
First and foremost, it comes down to time in the day. Those that cannot allocate a significant amount of time to the project are going to struggle and probably be disappointed at the end. I'm not saying that you couldn't get through the job and have a house that is built and livable at the end, but it's going to come with a lot of headaches and a lot of unexpected stresses for these individuals. So I think the first criteria would be those that are busy with day jobs or that cannot commit, like I said, a significant amount of time. I'm not going to put a specific number to it because it's too hard to say, right? I could say, hey, you need to be able to dedicate 4 hours a day to this project, but that's not fair, right? It's going to be way more than that some days, and other days it will probably be less than that. But what we can assure you is that being your own project manager is going to require a lot more time than you think it will.
Yep, absolutely. I think that nails the biggest point of why people should not build their own custom home. For the simple fact that it's just very time consuming, like you just mentioned.
But one thing I want to add to that is we've built plenty of homes now, and even we misguide our own expectations on the amount of time it takes. We'll go in saying, hey, this is our 13th home to build or 15th custom home to build or whatever it is. And we have some experience and exposure and and can relate to this should take roughly this long, whether it's just the trim work or the flooring work or whatever part of the project it is. And then you're like, wow, that took more time than I thought it would, even with us estimating this. So the time it took for us to solve problems, to figure out issues when you come across them, or the subcontractors coming up to you saying, hey, this won't work here, this doesn't fit here. And then you say, okay, well, we have a problem, we have to fix it. And that requires a lot of time on you because they're looking at you for answers and direction.
Yep. Another note on that too is that a lot of the problems that you mentioned that arise throughout a custom home build are pretty urgent and they're kind of pressing at that certain time. So it's not something that you can just be working at 9 to 5 in an office or other location and expect to pick up a phone call every once in a while and talk with the trades and get it figured out. A lot of times it does require somebody to be on site to put their eyes on it and to come to a reasonable solution for that problem to help the trades continue forward. So it is something that requires that flexibility and somebody to be out on site. So I think that does a really good job of summing up that, yes, it's a very big time commitment and it's got to be something that you go into very open eyes on, that you know what you're getting into before you commit to DIYing your own custom home build. To jump into the next point, I think the other biggest thing to be aware of if you do want to DIY your own project, and this is falling under that, those who probably shouldn't, is if you don't have any connections in the trades or material space. So if you don't have a trade base that you're knowledgeable of or any inside connections to, oh, my brother's an electrician and my uncle's a plumber and I know the painter that I use all the time and whatever else, those are the kind of people that it may make sense for. People that don't have an established trade base, it is very, very hard to find reputable people, to know that you can hold them accountable, and to know that they're not going to take advantage of you or your money. It's a long process and it takes a lot of trades and a lot of material vendors to build a custom home. So if that's not something that you already have established, once again, probably isn't a good idea to be building your own custom home.
I would also add that from a safety liability insurance perspective, that there's some knowledge and some know-how to make sure that you're protected if someone's on the roof and they fall off the roof on your job site, right? You're not going to go sue yourself, of course, but these contractors are could come after you. So there's contracts, there's expectations that they carry a certain amount of liability insurance. So that's not the point of this episode, nor do you guys probably care to dive into to understand those details. But and again, not to scare you away, but to educate you on the fact that not only do you need to have a trade base that you can trust and feel confident in the work that they're going to do, but the whole business management side of it, the liability risk management piece as well.
That's a very good point. Yeah, something that I think a lot of people may gloss over that think that they can build their own custom home. They might completely forget about the fact that it's a huge liability, not just the builder's risk insurance that you need to get on the property, but also all of the things that come along with hiring each of those individual contractors that are going to step foot on that project, which, like you mentioned, requires a contract, requires supervision, and requires the proper insurance as well from them and from you to cover that. So definitely a big thing there. Another thing that should prevent people from building their own custom home are government and local restrictions. So that could be permits, that could be all kinds of local jurisdictions that require it to be an actual certified general contractor or a professional building company. Maybe even the neighborhood that you're building in requires it to be a reputable home builder that has built several homes or has built a decent track record of homes that qualifies them to build in that neighborhood. So those are all things you want to be aware of where you're building and what those restrictions and those governing bodies are requiring for somebody to build their home.
Yeah.
Definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah, and that's pretty black and white, right? If you're not allowed to, based off where you want to live, then you're not going to build your own house because you're not allowed to by some other governing body.
For sure. And it's important to bring up because some people might think they can do it and they might be able to do it. But if they don't have the company set up or they're not licensed, if you are in a state that requires a license, a contractor license to build your home, those kind of things, then it's out of the question, anyways. Um, I think the last thing to wrap up this group of those who should not build their own custom home would be anybody who has a very limited knowledge, of course, of home building, right? I mean, that one seems kind of like a no-brainer, but a good way to wrap this up that if you don't have the knowledge, but you think that you can go out there and learn it from YouTube University or other people, or there's a course that you found online or whatever it is, I don't doubt that you could probably learn it, but it's going to take you way more time and way more effort to learn it than it's probably worth. I'll put it that way. I mean, builders that are reputable and have the know-how to build, they've spent many, many years accumulating that knowledge of how to do things. So it's just like anybody in their profession. The more you're in it and the more you've done it, the better you are. First time you build a home or a custom home is probably not going to go very smoothly. It's going to have a lot of road bumps and hiccups and issues and problems and things like that that you definitely need to have an understanding of how to build a custom home to get you through that.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I think the other thing is you can go learn on YouTube University or wherever else, but you still don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you're missing. And I'm going to make a general statement here, but I think overall the the residential custom home building industry, we are very poor in general in terms of content creation and getting stuff out there to the masses to educate uh, on how to build a custom home. And that's part of the reason why we started this podcast, Stephen, right? I mean, is to do that for our listeners, and hope that we continue to add value. Now, we didn't start this podcast obviously to teach people how to DIY their own house, but I think in general, I'm not speaking for us. In general, the industry I think has done a fairly poor job of getting content out on YouTube University and other places within Google and the vast World Wide Web to say, hey, here are the steps. And I'm not saying they're not there, but I think you're going to have to dig, like Stephen said, more than you think.
Yep. Yeah, good point. Good point. That's why we're here, trying to change that, put more content out there. All right. Well, if we haven't scared you away yet, and you still think that maybe you could DIY your own project, let's talk about what that would look like and the group that maybe should, or maybe it does make sense to DIY their own custom home build. So, Brian, you want to hit us with the most important thing there of who actually would be suitable to build their own custom home?
Yeah, and I don't want to. It's not just the opposite of everything we just said in terms of those that shouldn't, but I think I'm going to start with something of just saying, hey, it's going to be appropriate for the people uh, that have the confidence and in the wherewithal and the awareness to say, hey, where I'm not an expert, I know how to get an expert in the house to make sure that this thing is going to be right. I'm going to call in multiple inspectors. I'm going to double and triple check certain things, and that's going to come at an additional cost because of my lack of knowledge, but it's something that I'm willing to embrace and take on and recognize that I need other eyes on this project to make sure that as I'm a do-it-yourselfer and I'm being my own general contractor, that I know that when this house is complete and at some point in the future I'm going to sell it, that it's been built to code. If you don't have county or city inspections and things like that, if you're going to be able to get away with that, based off where you're building, you're going to be able to say, hey, this house was built as well as, if not better than the houses around me. And I know that because I've had multiple different experts and inspectors come through this house. So, Stephen, just a general comment, I think, as we talk about who would be appropriate to consider building their own house. I think it starts with that confidence and certainly that awareness of, hey, This one I'm not so sure about. I'm going to make sure that I'm sure by pulling other people in, whether it's something specifically structurally with the frame or the foundation or whatever topic it may be.
Yeah, good point. Very good point there. Um, yeah, I think to hit on some of the other ones, I mean, like you mentioned, it is somewhat of the opposite of what we mentioned for those who shouldn't. Now we're talking about those who should, and it's a lot of the same, but just of course the opposite. So yes, people that have, I would say probably the most important, like we mentioned for those who shouldn't, is people that have the time and it makes sense for them to build their own. So their time value of money is there that, okay, hey, you know what? I've got a flexible schedule, or I've got a year off that I'm taking in between jobs or something, right? I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. You're home with the kids and you can have a flexible schedule when they're out at school or something, and you've got the time to GC a project like this. So that is probably the biggest thing, is you've got the time.
Yeah, and let me share a 20-second example. One of our subcontractors, he does grading and lot work. He's looking at building his own custom home actually as we record this, and has been for about the last year, but has stalled due to some personal things and whatnot. But he is connected to the trade base. He knows a lot of the people because of the lot work and site clearing work that he has done. He is going to be living on the property in his metal building where it's got AC and plumbing and stuff. So he and his family are living there while his house is to be built. So that helps from a commute standpoint. While he still has a job, he still has things he has to do. Uh, every time he wakes up in the morning and goes to bed at night, he's going to be looking out the window, looking at his project coming together. Right. So someone like himself who knows the trades can afford the time, because he can be somewhat flexible in his professional schedule, and happens to live right next to his job site, is a should be a recipe for success. Now he's going to need to lean on some others because he's not an expert across the board, but he's someone that if he's willing to invest the time could be a successful DIYer for his custom home.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a great little addition there that gives an example of a person who this makes a lot of sense for. Is just like you mentioned, he's got the time to do it. He's living on site next to his project, so he can actively manage it. He's also well connected, very well connected to the local trade base and material suppliers, because like you mentioned, he actually works on custom homes all the time as a lot grade and clearing guy. And then also he has picked up knowledge of the home building industry and the custom home building space as he's been around custom homes and doing the work around them for the grading and the clearing and the site work. And he's also and this is an important notation, that he's in an area with very little restrictions for building. He's outside of city limits. He's in the county. He doesn't have to have a building license or a GC license to be able to do this on his own. And he's got the wherewithal and the know-how to put this together. So he is one of the few that I would say and agree that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for him to build his own custom home. Now, he has to do the math and do the knowledge there that, is this the highest and best use of his time? And we talk about that frequently. And I'll use another example of somebody that we've worked with that he's a surgeon and he wanted to DIY his own home. He came to us, luckily, and he ended up letting us build his home, and we were honored to do it. But he had the initial thought of, you know what, I'm going to do this on my own. And it's just kind of funny to think through that he's a surgeon and makes very, very good money for his hourly input. And then he had the thought that, hey, you know what, maybe I should build my own home. We have the opposite thought that, no, you know what, your time is much better spent to do what you're very good at, which is being a surgeon. That's the highest and best use of your time money wise. Unless this is just going to be a passion project for you to build it and you enjoy it, and it's something that you really want to put the hours and the effort and all the other things that go into it, that's his decision. But we very clearly said, this doesn't make sense from any perspective. And that's how we ended up finally building his home and convincing him very easily that, look, you need a professional home builder to build your multi-million-dollar home. This is not something that you can just kind of wing it and expect it to turn out well. Although you're very intelligent and very educated as a surgeon, this isn't the thing that we recommend you to DIY, because he did not have the things that we've talked about in this podcast.
Yep. And I think our lock rating contractor, to jump back to him for a second, he also has the awareness to say, hey, I need some help with this. I can't do this all by myself. And he's actually reached out to us saying, hey, well, can I pay you as a consultant to oversee some things, do some inspections from your side as a general contractor, not being a specialty inspector in terms of foundation or frame or anything like that, but just getting another set of eyes on it. So we talk about that wherewithal and that awareness piece. And he's demonstrating that he has it by saying, hey, before I get into this, I know I'm going to need some other eyes and help on this, and making sure he has that lined up as well.
Yeah, I like that. He's humble enough and he's knowledgeable or aware enough to know when he needs to call in help.
Yep. So I would just say in general, we're not trying to scare away the people that want to do it yourself. I think if you want to tackle it, it is possible. And the purpose of this episode was to just make sure that you understand some of the risk and making sure you're looking at it from all angles in the full picture, right? Saying, hey, what am I getting myself into? And of course, there's going to be surprises. There's going to be negative surprises like there are in any build. But just trying to get ahead of those and set your expectations for those that will come up and get through them, right? No matter how good of a builder you are or how experienced you are, there are going to be unexpected challenges, right? And so hopefully we helped you, for those that want to proceed or want to continue thinking or running down this path, just help manage your expectations on doing it yourself.
For sure. One last point that I want to make is there's also a huge difference between building a $400,000 home, let's call it, versus a $4 million home. Those are two completely different beasts, and they have different everything. I'll be honest. I mean, the framing, all that stuff is completely different. So those are two completely different projects to look at and say, okay, does this make sense for me to try to tackle on my own, or does it not? And as you get more complex with the project, of course, it takes a lot more knowledge, a lot more expertise, and a lot more everything, time, resources, blah, 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 you name it, to build than a smaller, less complicated build. So just something to keep in mind too, is if you're retired and you've got the time and you've got the knowledge and you want to build a $400,000 home, probably makes more sense than if you're younger, you're in your prime of your career, and you're trying to build a multi-million-dollar home. Those are two completely different situations. So just something to think through as well.
Absolutely. And I'm going to make just one last comment unrelated to this topic here today, but we are running a home in the Parade of Homes, the Hill Country Builders Association Parade of Homes, in the middle of October 2024. So October 19th and 20th and 26th and 27th. For those of our listeners that are close by and happen to be in the Central Texas area, we'd love to see you come through our house at the Parade of Homes. So reach out to us or go to the Hill Country Builders Association website for more details.
Awesome. Yeah, good. Very good point. If there's any way that we can have you guys vote for us for Parade Best in Show, or what they call People's Choice Award, we'll definitely let y'all know. We'd appreciate the support. As we always say too, if you find value in our podcast and enjoy listening to it, we would really appreciate if you'd rate us and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. I think some of them now even let you comment. We'd love to hear your comments, and just help us with the algorithm however you can. So really appreciate the support. Even just the listen alone is enough, and share it with your friends that you think might find us valuable as well. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.